So by us adding value to the properties, using the planning game and pushing the rents, we're getting bigger valuations, which allows us to recycle our capital and get more aggressive, and then we can sort of rinse and repeat. Yeah, I wouldn't have had maybe 70% of the deals I ended up with if I hadn't followed up, if I had just left them. We're buying the property for 215,000 because it's in a really good location. And with the planning, it's probably worth about 250, 260,000 without even touching the building at all, just because we've turned it into a 7-bedroom HMO, which sort of blows my mind, really.
I'm going to go straight to our next interview, which is going to be an online one again. So let's say hello to Jordan. Jordan, hopefully you are there somewhere.
Yeah, hi everyone. Sorry I can't be there today.
That's
Simon.
okay.
I would love to have been in the room, but unfortunately I had pre-booked plans.
No worries. Well, thank you, Jordan, for making the time to be here anyway. So Jordan, what we're doing is we're just getting people to share their story. And I know that by going through that, there were so many golden nuggets and valuable tips come out. And you've had an incredible journey, Jordan. And you're pretty young, if you don't mind me saying. And so I think it's going to inspire a lot of people. And today's all about inspiring people, building their belief about what's possible, and also picking up some great golden nuggets and hints and tips. So do you want to start off, Jordan, by telling everyone a little bit about yourself and your background, please?
Yeah, well, basically, I'm from South Wales, just outside Swansea. And before I started Mastermind or Accelerator or any of the training, I didn't have any property experience at all. I didn't even actually own my own home. So I'm still living with my mother, which is quite bizarre. So yeah, I did an apprenticeship at Tata Steel, which is like an engineering, so I had a pretty good wage anyway. But yeah, you've still got to sort of swap your 40 hours a week, swapping all my time for money, and I felt like there was a bit of a ceiling on the earnings of my job.
Yeah, and do you mind sharing on how old you are?
I'm 29 at the moment.
Okay, great. So still pretty young, really.
Yeah, pretty young, but I sort of finished my apprenticeship. I was in this job. I was earning good money, and then I just thought, is this it? Do I just accept this now for the next 40 years and retire on a pension that's probably not going to give me what I want?
Yeah.
So that's when I started looking for sort of other avenues and different things.
Great. So, and how did you come across us, and how did you find out about me? And
well, what basically happened was, I think you are familiar with the story, Simon, but I'll obviously share it for everyone else.
Well, I know, but I'm just for everyone else's benefit. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, I was working with a guy called Morgan. He actually came on your Mastermind course.
Yes, Morgan Stewart.
So he was on Morgan Roberts.
Oh, sorry, Morgan Roberts. Yeah. Sorry, yes, and Morgan Stewart as well.
He was on this. Yeah, and him. Yeah. So he was on the same wage as myself, and he left the business after he did Mastermind because he replaced all of his income.
Yes.
So that sort of piqued my interest. I came along to a pin to see him present. I was pretty much blown away by the sort of things that people were doing without using any of their own money, and the advanced strategies that you teach at Accelerator.
Yeah.
So it just sort of snowballed from there, really. I would add, though, I did procrastinate quite a bit. So I went to a few pin events. I used to come away buzzing, think, I'm going to go and smash this month. And I didn't used to really do much. But after I went to Accelerator, I think that's where it all started to change, to be honest.
Great. So what was it about the 3-day Mastermind Accelerator that made that difference for you?
Well, it's just the people that you're around, really. You're immersed in property for 3 days. The content is unbelievable. You literally come away from there with all these crazy ideas. You're going home telling all your family, and they all think you've gone mad.
Yeah.
But yeah, the amount of strategies that you get taught, I think it's more around being around like-minded people.
Yeah.
So in the area that I'm from, my friends they're all great, love them to bits, but they don't really get it. And you can tell them what you're doing, and they just think it's a load of nonsense. So when you're around people that want the same things in life as you, like I say, you become the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Yes.
Just as soon as I was there for the 3 days, I knew this is what I want to do. This is the environment I need to be in, and then I signed up.
Fantastic.
For the Mastermind.
So let's talk about some of let's talk about your reason why. And you kind of touched on it already. You're kind of thinking, well, Is there a bit more to life than what I've got? Was there anything else that was driving you to want to do this?
I think this is where I struggle a little bit, because a lot of people have got children, and a lot of people, and they say that they've got a really strong reason why for that reason. But I'm not at that stage yet. However, I just wanted a better life for myself, my family,
Hey,
my
Morgan,
mum, etc. So
Jordan, there's nothing wrong with that, you know, just wanting more out of life. That's pretty cool, right?
Yeah. But a lot of people are like, you need a strong reason why, which I completely agree with.
Yeah.
But mine's not as heartfelt as other people's. It's just wanting a better life.
So
but,
it wasn't that you hated your job or anything. It was just you thought.
No, I don't hate it. No.
There's more to life than that, basically.
Yeah, of course. And as good as your job may be, you've still got to swap 40 hours of your life every week.
Yeah.
For the pay. And like I say to a lot of people, would you go there if they didn't pay you? And you probably wouldn't, so you can't enjoy that much, right? So
yeah, exactly.
So that's sort of the that's the sort of thought process behind it all.
So let's talk a little bit about I think you've got some slides. If you want to share those, you should be able to do that.
How do I do that?
The green
I'll share my
button
screen. Yeah,
at the bottom.
I've got it.
That should be.
If you can tell me when it's.
Yep. If you want to maximize that, if you want to go down to the
I can see it,
little TV screen at the bottom, that's great. Okay, brilliant.
Yeah.
So let's talk through these. So you've done a bit of the background. Anything else on there we've not covered yet?
No, it's pretty much standard stuff. I had no property experience. I sort of read your book, Property Magic, and Rich Dad Poor Dad, which completely transformed my mindset, to be honest. And I must add, I didn't mention that earlier on, that the accelerator is not just about property, which I completely expected, and Mastermind. A lot of it is about your mindset, because it's all well and good learning all the strategies, but you need the right mindset to go out there and put into practice.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that is something that you teach, which has really, really changed my life, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So live life on my terms. That's the reason. That's my main driving force. Shall I move on to the next one?
Yeah, move on, and I'll jump in, because rather than a present, I want to make it more of an interview. So you talk away, but I'll jump in and interrupt you to pull out some key learnings for everyone who's watching, if that's okay.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. My strategy was to basically solve people's problems. So you talk about this a lot, Simon. It's got to be an ethical win-win for both parties.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. I just went out there. I looked for people who were struggling, who were in a situation where they wanted to get out. Look for a solution that benefited them, but also benefited myself. And I found that really helped and sort of accelerated the relationships I was building with vendors.
Yeah, I think
a lot of people probably going out there.
They can pick up on that. If you want to genuinely help with, they can pick up. Whereas if you're just trying to get the best deal for yourself and you don't really care about them, I think that comes across, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And if you ask them what do they need from it, they start to open up a lot more. Whereas instead of just trying to ham the price down, sort of working with them to find out what it is they want from the situation, it tends to work a lot better.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're doing high-end co-living, so it's luxury, all en suites. We're probably charging about 25%, 30% more than people are in the market in Swansea, the average price. So we're really pushing the rents.
And just
I'll use
that,
an article for.
So I just want to touch on that. It's, as we've said, there's a theme coming through here, and not everyone does HMOs, obviously, but those people who are doing HMOs, we're teaching you to have a very high quality product where you do get higher rents and lower void periods. And that's really important, because it means you're not competing with all the other HMOs, because there are, and I'm sure in Swansea, there's probably an oversupply of very average HMOs, as there is in most areas. But we don't want to compete with them. We want to get a higher, more discerning type of tenant, right?
Yeah, of course. We find that it's all about knowing your market. And we find that a lot of the students in the area are looking for en-suite rooms. They're looking for high end. A lot of them are living in these student purpose-built blocks at the moment, and they're being charged heaven and earth. So a lot of them, they're happy to pay good money for good accommodation. That's what we're providing at the moment. And we're pretty much showing people around rooms and they want them straight away. So it's really, really positive.
Fantastic. Okay.
In Swansea, it's all Article 4. So if anyone doesn't know what Article 4 is, basically it's a direction that the council put in place to stop you just turning a normal residential home into a HMO. So we're using planning gain, and we've sort of, from being on Mastermind and being around the these types of people, we really learned the planning game inside and out, and we're using that now in our advantage.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of investors in the area would probably miss out on the deals, and they won't be able to see the deals that we can.
So let's pick up on that. Let's pick up on that, John, because that's a really valuable learning for everyone listening here. I think that we've just touched on it already. A lot of people think if it's an Article 4 area where, as you're quite right, the local council said, look, we don't want any more HMOs. They've taken away the permitted development rights where you could normally turn a house into an HMO. They've taken that away, which means that if you want to have an HMO in these areas now, you do need to apply for planning permission, and the councils will automatically reject it. But if it meets the criteria, often on appeal, you'll actually get the permission. And the criteria vary from council to council, but normally it's they don't want more than a certain percentage, maybe say 10% of how HMOs within a certain radius, right? But the point being, most investors who, a little bit of knowledge is dangerous. They know a bit about Article 4. They think, oh, I can't get there because I won't get planning. And they don't look at opportunities that are available in those areas, which is, I guess, is what you're alluding to, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm talking about a deal in the next few slides where I'll demonstrate how we've actually used Article 4 and the planning game to our advantage.
Great. Okay.
To make a deal from, it was at market price, but by using planning, we've managed to add like 40,000-50,000 to the purchase, the actual value of the house, without actually touching it.
Okay, great.
So we're using that. We're adding value, lifting the rents. And then what we do then, obviously, a commercial valuation, you use the rents that you achieve to work out the valuation of the property. Yeah. So by us adding value to the properties, using the planning game and pushing the rents, we're getting bigger valuations, which allows us to recycle our capital and get more aggressive, and then we can sort of rinse and repeat. Yeah. You're not going to get all your money out every time, but we're getting a lot of our money out, and we're going again on the next project then.
Yeah,
fantastic. Which is really, really useful. Okay. Yeah, and I said to continue to grow my mindset because I genuinely believe that your mindset is probably the most powerful thing out of all of this.
I completely agree.
Just purely because, like I said earlier, you can have all the tools, but if you don't actually get it and get shit done, then it's pointless information, really. Yeah. If I'm being completely honest.
Yeah.
So shall I talk you through my first deal?
Yeah,
Simon,
please do. Yeah, I love the obligatory cheesy picture with the keys.
Yeah, it's got to be done. That's the first deal you ever have, right? So you've got to get a cheesy selfie, otherwise what's the point?
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, this was sourced by a landlord letter, and in Swansea, I heard Mac talking on the call earlier on, and he didn't believe in landlord letters. Yeah. But I literally, every single property that I bought has been through a landlord letter, which is crazy, really. And when I was sending them out, you send them a little bit hesitant, thinking, is this really going to work? But it's astonishing how many people actually get back to you. And, you've got to kiss a lot of frogs. There's going to be a lot of time wasters, but there's certainly some people out there that need help.
And a lot of landlords, as we heard earlier, they're unrealistic about the value of their property. They think it's worth more than it is. Yeah. But again, the power of follow-up as well, right?
Yeah. No doesn't mean no now. Not no forever. Or no, I messed that up. But it doesn't mean no now.
No doesn't mean no never. It's just no, not now. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. So I think about 75% of the deals that I've done have actually come from following up. Yeah. So initially we would go out there, we'd meet them, etc. They might initially want a lot more than what we're willing to pay, but then over time, I think they sort of come to realize that maybe they are asking a little bit much. And they become more motivated, and then that's where you really tend to get the better deals then. Yeah. This was housed with asylum seekers, so it was in really, really bad condition. They weren't looking after the property at all. They basically run it into the ground so badly that nobody could even use the kitchen because it was just so unhealthy there. So it was a 7-bed existing HMO, but it'd never been through planning permission. So what we agreed to do with the landlord was we said, we'll take all the hassle off you. We'll get the planning for you. We'll front up all the costs for it. And he was really happy. He was chuffed with that. And we managed to get this for a real good price. I put in here, do not trust all professionals, because I give it to a planning consultant, all the information. And he said, yeah, we'll definitely get this through for you. It's solid. He put the planning in for me, and then it turns out that he didn't do a very good job, and it got declined. And then we had to go through all the process again. So this deal took me about 9 months to get over the line, which again, is testament to the relationship we're building with these people, because otherwise the guy would have just walked away, to be honest.
Yeah.
So 12 months. Well, I've got 12 months to get over the line altogether. 9 months to get the planning through, and then another 3 months of conveyancing and evicting tenants and everything. So, the purchase price of this one was 145,000, which is ridiculously cheap
for a 7-bed HMO. That's amazing.
Yeah, it is. It is amazing, and we're actually buying another one off him now, which is 5 doors up, and we're buying that one for a little bit more, with 150,000. But that's a 7-bed as well.
Again, it just goes to show that once you've working with landlords, so they're absolutely the best people you can work when you're buying deals, because often they have multiple properties that they want to get rid of. And once you've got that relationship and you've done what you said you do, although it did take a long time, obviously it's a difficult situation and you've obviously persevered with that, Jordan, but they're happy and is doing another deal. So that's often what happens, isn't it?
Yeah, and a really interesting point to make here, Simon, for everybody's benefit, is that this guy actually had a valuation done on this property. I think it was I think the agent told him to put it on a 180 or 190. And he came back to me and said that he was still willing to stick to the 150 because he trusts that I'll get it done. Because he's had a lot of people messing about in the past. She's actually selling to me for 30, 40 grand less than what an agent told him to put it on the market.
And that,
purely because he knows I'll follow her.
Yeah, it's testament to your relationship with him you've created. And also it's a great example that most investors assume that all sellers want to get as much as they possibly can. And many sellers do want to do that. But you've got to understand the value that we bring by giving certainty and peace of mind to people, that if we say we're going to do something, we're going to do it. And particularly if you've already done one deal and you've proved that not being messed around, and it might be worth 180, 190, but actually he probably paid a lot less than that many, many years ago. He's still making money on it and he just wants a solution. He wants to move on. And that is sometimes more important than the amount of money. So it's a really key lesson that people struggle to get their head around, but it's so important to understand.
Yeah, and another thing is that we're again taking the planning off him as well, which in reality isn't a massive task if you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
But to somebody who's, maybe in the 60s, 70s and knows that they've got to go and get the planning to get this sold, they just don't want the hassle of doing it as well. So we're adding value to the deal by helping him get the planning gain as well, which, it obviously doesn't account for 40,000, but the speed and certainty and us sorting that for him is what's appealing to the vendor in this instance.
Yeah.
So we spent 120,000 on the refurb. We did probably go slightly over that, to be honest. But yeah, still a cracking deal. We've had I got you a revaluation of 350,000. We actually think we're actually waiting on the valuation, but we actually think it's going to come in a lot higher than that. We think more 400, 450, which is mind blowing, to be honest with you. And we get all our money out and that figure there is what really blows my mind. So it gives us a monthly cash flow of £2,676.
Yeah.
And the reason I've got low mortgage in there is because I was a new investor, I could only get 70% loan to value on the mortgage.
Yeah.
So it means that we've got a little bit of a lower mortgage payment, got a little bit more money left in the deal. But it's cash flowing us 32,000 a year.
Wow.
That's not far off my salary, to be honest.
I was just about to say that's more than most people earn, the average salary in the UK, from one deal.
Yeah.
We've seen a bit of a trend.
Deal,
we've seen a bit of a trend here on some of the case studies we've been looking at recently, and that, a great deal could be enough to replace your income.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Don't get me wrong, it's not easy. It is hard work, and this doesn't come overnight. This deal has taken maybe 18 months to completely finish. But it's just persistence, and it certainly will pay off. So yeah.
Fantastic. Great.
And that's a return on investment.
Sorry, go on.
Go on, sorry.
Go on. Sorry.
Go on. Jump in. Sorry.
There's a slight time delay here. You go for it. Sorry.
All right. Yeah. So it's a return on investment of 81% on that one.
Yeah.
But yeah. And then do you want me to demonstrate this one as well, Simon?
Yes, please. Yeah. Go for it. Yeah.
Yeah. So this one was a purchase option, and this is the type of stuff that you teach at Accelerator and on the year-long Mastermind course. So this was, again, a property that we went to view it, sourced by a landlord letter, sorry. It was actually a 6-bedroom HMO, but it had a 7th room. So when me and my business partner, Al, who I actually met on Accelerator, who is now my business partner, by the way, when myself and Al went out there, we noticed there was a 7th room. We asked him, "Oh, what's going on in here then?" So he had like a boiler in there. He was like keeping a load of junk and stuff. And straight away we knew that we've already done this and we've got it through for a 7-bedroom elsewhere. And we knew that we could convert this one from a 6 to a 7.
Yeah.
So we secured it on a purchase option while we did the planning game, just to cover our end. And then we got the planning through to change this building from a 6-bedroom to a 7. And that's essentially, we're buying the property for 215,000 because it's in a really good location. And with the planning, it's probably worth about 260,000 without even touching the building at all, just because we've turned it into a 7-bedroom HMO.
Yeah.
Which sort of blows my mind, really.
Brilliant.
So these are the little things that you learn coming on Accelerator, coming on Mastermind, that I would have never known this in a million years without the support, the help of the community. So the figures on this one, 215,000 purchase price. Again, we're probably going to be stripping this back to brick and rebuilding it. So 120,000 refurb. An interesting point on this one is that we actually qualified for an empty homes grant. Because the property had been empty for so long, the council were offering empty homes grant of £25,000 to help people renovate projects to get them back on the market. So that's a nice little bonus.
So that's £25,000. That's a gift. You don't have to pay that back, do you? It's a grant.
No, I don't have to pay it back. No.
Yeah.
And this is actually something I learned of someone on Mastermind. They told me about it. We looked into it, and that's when we got 25,000. So it's crazy stuff. It's just surrounding yourself with these people.
Yeah.
You don't know what you don't know, as you say, and so that's 25,000.
Just that one thing's more than paid back your Mastermind fee, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
And that was just one thing that you picked up from one person, which is crazy.
Yeah, it's invaluable information, and you'd never know it going down the pub or anything. So
no.
It's about the environment, it's about the people that you're around, and that's what's truly special about the Mastermind for me, anyway. A revaluation on this one of 400,000 gives us a monthly profit of 2,300, and my share of that is 1,157 because I'm doing this with another Masterminder.
Yeah.
That's an annual profit of 27,000 for us, return on investment of 72%.
Yeah.
So these are pretty good deals, to be fair.
Amazing deals. Deals. And so let's talk about your overall results, if we can, Jordan.
Yeah, I do have a slide queued.
Indeed, prepared. Good.
Over the year, I started off, I had a little bit of my own money, but I managed to actually raise £260,000 in private investment. At the start of the year, I went into the year thinking, I don't know how the heck anybody's going to lend me money. I had, imposter syndrome. Thought, why would anybody lend a 28-year-old a load of their hard saved cash? Just by attending local events, showing your credibility, showing what you're doing, people sort of, they will buy into it if you can present them with a good deal, which we were doing. And that's the figure that we managed to raise.
Yeah.
So we managed to purchase £755,000 worth of property, and the end value of those properties was 1.35 million once they were all completed. And to be honest with you, that figure's probably a little bit higher now. We're probably more within maybe 1.5 million. And the total profit that we managed to create for the year was 115,000, and my share of that is £72,000, which again is probably more now because the rents have gone up, etc. in Swansea. So nearly double my income in a year, really. It's crazy.
Let's just make sure everyone's really clear they heard that. So you started this program, you're 27, 28 at the time when you're actually doing this, no property experience, still living at home, and you had a good job, but you realized your job wasn't what you want to do for the rest of your life. And in the program, in a year, pretty much, you've now doubled your former salary. And that's now residual income. So you could stop and do nothing else, and you'd have that income going for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Work once, get paid forever.
That's the saying. That's the saying.
Yeah, that's a great saying.
Just to stop for a minute, how do you feel about that?
Epic, to be fair. It's amazing. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong, it's not easy. I'm not going to sit here and say that.
We've made that very clear, and anyone who thinks properties are get rich quick are deluding themselves. You can make a lot of money as you've shown you've done it, but get rich quick suggests it's easy. We made it very clear. This is not easy. This takes commitment. This takes dedication. It takes time. And some will go, oh, that's not for me. Well, fine. If that's not for you, that's not for you. But I think you've given us yet another example. Again, the proof that if you commit to this, if you invest in yourself, if you really go for it, these are the literally life-changing results that can be achieved. I mean, it's just mind-blowing, really, isn't it?
Yeah, and you do have to commit. What I would say is if you literally just trust the process, it's as simple as that. If you do everything that you teach, it's just a winning recipe.
Yeah.
There's no way that it won't work as long as you're willing to go out there and do the work.
You've hit the nail heads. We will teach you exactly what to do. You just got to go and trust that, do exactly what we say. But you're the one who's done the work. You got to go out there and you got to be consistent and persistent because there are challenges. And Jordan, let's be really open here with everyone. I'm sure you've had some challenges along the journey, right?
Oh yeah, there's challenges on every project. But again, I think that's where it comes back to Mastermind. And I've got a group of friends that I met on Mastermind. You had Mac on earlier on.
Yes.
And he's in the circle that I sort of speak to quite a lot. And they're always on the end of the phone. We have like weekly Zoom meetings where we all jump on. Anyone's got any issues, we run through things. It's just such a community in the PIN environment.
Yeah.
We're all at the PIN dinner next week together.
Yeah.
All on the same table. So yeah, there's always somebody on the end of the phone, always support. And yeah, everyone's egging each other on. It's hard to explain with you.
Although Mastermind's a year-long program, really, I think you've got friends, connections, probably for the rest of your life.
Yeah, all across the country as well, which is amazing. And it's just a wealth of knowledge. And you attend the local PIN events, even though there's a lot of knowledge. But when you go on Masterminds, it's like the next level almost. It's hard to explain. There's just the people there are so much more committed and driven. Yeah, it's just a great circle.
Well, I guess that's because they've all PIN meetings are great. Don't get me wrong, but you get a lot of people at PIN meetings who, for whatever reason, they're not really fully bought into their property journey yet. They might never do anything. But for someone to invest the kind of money that they do on Mastermind, they're committed. They're focused. They want to get a return on that investment, and so they're just by nature far more committed. And as you said, you become like the people you spend your time with. Well, what do your friends back home think about what you've done? Do they quite believe it? Or do they not know? Do you not tell them about it?
No, at the start, I didn't used to tell people about it because until you started telling us that we needed to. So like I say, trust the process. Yeah. But a lot of people have bought into it. I get a lot of messages now, to be honest. People asking for advice, help, which I'm happy to do. If anyone's ever needed any help, by all means, reach out. Yeah. But a lot of my friends are actually becoming more and more interested as they're seeing it develop.
Well, I bet they are more interested now, right?
Yeah, they are. So actually, some of them are thinking about coming on the accelerator. One of my friends is actually thinking about coming on. So,
well, he should do, right?
Yeah, he should do. Yeah, I told him to.
Do you think
that's why he's going?
Do you think you would be? I mean, you're a successful guy. You're a kind of committed guy. I think when you make a decision, you just go for it, right? Did you ever expect when obviously you would have had certain aspirations and coming onto accelerator and then Mastermind, you had certain goals of what you wanted to achieve. Did you ever believe you would be where you are now as quick as you've done it?
No, I don't think so. My goal was to try and hit the target, the banner that you have, Simon. Obviously, the £1 million portfolio, the 50,000. That was always the goal. But whether I was going to achieve it or not was, did I really believe it? I'm not convinced. But yeah, I just went for it. I thought that's my goal. I'm going to go for it. That was my focus the whole year. I wanted to be one of the top 5 performers at the end of the year. And that was the thing that really drove me. So that was another reason why, I suppose. Yeah, brilliant. But I didn't think I would do it, but yeah.
Finally, let's just summarize. What are some of your key tips for people watching? I mean, you've already given loads of value, and if people have been listening, there's lots of great stuff you've shared and truly inspiring. So thank you, Jordan. But what are some of the top tips you would give people, please?
Yes, I've got to focus on one strategy and find your investment area early. The reason I put that is I see a lot of people, and I was one of them, where you see somebody doing service accommodation, you see people doing this, you see people doing that, and then you get you think, oh, that sounds great, and then you don't really focus just on the one strategy.
Yeah.
So I just quickly realised that was going to get messy if I started looking at different avenues. So I just focused on HMOs, focused on Swansea, and just went full force. And I feel like that is probably what really gave me, like massive success, really.
Yes.
In Swansea. Follow up on your deals. I know we touched on it a little bit earlier on. But yeah, I wouldn't have had maybe 70% of the deals I ended up with if I hadn't followed up, if I had just left them. Most of the deals ended up coming from a follow-up phone call, a second viewing, a third viewing, and people weren't keen at the start. Then when I called them back, showed that I was serious, then things sort of changed.
Yeah.
Persistence. Yeah, you're never going to get anywhere if you just give up at your first bit of negativity. There's a lot of things you've got to overcome, but if you just keep going, even if you think that the end isn't in, there is no light at the end of the tunnel. I can assure you there will be. So just keep going. Trust the process. I know these are all a little bit cliche, but yeah, simple. Just trust what you say, and that's what I did. And these are the results that you'll get. Build relationships with the vendors. So that's probably one of the biggest takeaways I had, is that a lot of the deals would have fallen over 10 times over if I didn't have a really good relationship.
Yeah.
So really work on building relationships with people, because they want you to do well and they want you to help them. So build relationships, build your power team early, because they're the ones that get it all done. So you're essentially the Pied Piper. You're just illustrating everything. They're putting it all together. You're putting it all together. Sorry, they're doing all the work. And you need a massive power team. And I've just put my social media on there for a plug.
Yeah.
So if anybody wants to follow me, by all means, go ahead, go over to my Instagram and give me a follow and see what I'm up to.
Awesome. Jordan, thank you so much for sharing. Truly inspirational. As I said, everyone, I'm sure this is only the start of your journey, your success. So I look forward to observing and keeping in touch with you, see how you do in the future. And I'll see you very, very soon at the dinner. Yeah,
I'll see you next week. Yeah, Great. Thanks for having me. And it's an honor to be on here. And just to anyone who's thinking about getting involved in property and you're sitting there, procrastinating, just get on with it. Get it done. Get to the accelerator, and I'm sure you won't regret it. So Great. That's all for me.
Thank you so much, Jordan. Speak to you very soon. Thank
Cheers,
you very
Simon.
much. Great.
Thanks very much.
I do hope you got massive value from watching this YouTube video. I'd encourage you to click on the link below to come and do the online training with me. And I've got another video lined up for you, which I think is also going to be really useful, that you should watch once you've registered for the online training with me. So invest with knowledge, invest with skill. I'll see you very soon.